So guys, apparently no leaks or anything today, but I really wanted to do a quick video on 4th generations that need to be added to bridge the gap between the 4th and 5th generation jets, but this is a must list. So I already did some lists like this, but this is like, without these vehicles, we will not see a 5th generation. When we see all of them, then we will see 5th generation jets. And you will see that it's kind of a very fast list because, honestly, these are the ones that I think are absolutely necessary. We cannot have 5th generation jets without these vehicles with the logic that Gaijin uses, in my opinion. But of course, there will be more probably added, but these are the ones that I think we just need them, according to what BVD said and everything, okay? So let's start the list. Let's go very quickly between them. The first one, of course, it's one that I have a feeling that it might come in this update, the F-18E Super Hornet for the US. I think, of course, the US is the main nation of the Super Hornet. Of course, if you don't know, of course, Super Hornets are the evolution of the Legacy Hornets that we have, complete redesign, more stealth-focused, a lot heavier, a lot larger, extra power, extra radar power, more missiles. Everything is an improvement, although the aircraft is heavier and it should be a little bit less performing in the terms of pure performance, right? But we need that. It is an AESA capable vehicle that the US can have. It's the easiest one to have, it's the most logical one. We need that, okay? It just needs to happen. Then another one would be Eurofighters, but not only just normal Eurofighters, but the Tranche 4 Eurofighters. Why is that? Because those will come with an AESA radar from the get-go. So Germany and Italy are going to be the main operators over here, but of course I'm pretty sure the UK would receive some as well. They are still being built and tested and everything, but you get the point. I mean, a multitude of upgrades were done to these vehicles compared to the Eurofighters that we have in the game, but this would be the Eurofighter with AESA. That's the main thing, the capture radar with AESA. And that's one thing that Gaijin said that they really want to add for everybody, right? So yeah, Eurofighter Tranche 4. Then for the Russians, I think it's absolutely nuts to not have an Su-35 before the Su-57. So it would make a lot of sense. It would just, think about it. You know how Gaijin operates. Having an Su-57 for the Russians without an Su-35 would be insane. So yeah, the Su-35, of course, the latest model the Russians produced of the flanker. Thrust vectoring engines, a lot of power. PESA radar, most advanced one that they had on the flanker. Just upgrades overall. It can carry a multitude of missiles, a multitude of weapons, even some things like the R-37, right? So it's just incredible, of course, as a 4th generation jet. But yeah, we need that thing before we see 5th generation jets. It's absolutely necessary, looking at what Gaijin does normally with Russian vehicles, that we will see the Su-35 before we see, obviously, the Su-57. And the same goes to the Chinese as well, with the 4th one over here, some form of advanced flanker for the Chinese. Of course, the easier one would be an Su-35, because indeed they operate Su-35s as well. But we can have other ones like the J-16, the Su-30 kind of derivative model, right? That would be one of the most modern ones as well. Or a J-15 with the T model or something like that. That would use electronic scanned array radars and other modernizations like that, right? But some form of advanced flanker will be added for the Chinese for sure before we see the J-20. Then we talk about the Swedes. Of course, the Gripen E, 4+ generation version, 4++, whatever you want to call it. Better engine, AESA radar, way better cockpit, better missiles, more missiles. Everything's upgraded compared to the Gripen C. It just makes sense without, these aircraft we will probably see during this year, I would assume. It would be nuts to see 5th generation jets without a Gripen E. And last but not least, of the main of the list would be an F-16I Sufa. It's not as advanced as some of them that we talked about, but it's still a very advanced own design kind of modernization of the F-16 for the Israelis. I have a feeling that they will receive it as well before we go to the next generation F-35s and stuff. It's just, it would be nuts to not see the Sufa as well. Remember, it is more based on the F-16D, right? Block 52, if I'm not mistaken, and it is heavily upgraded, so it would be an interesting vehicle to have. And of course, to wrap up the video, I have to, of course, mention some other vehicles, honorable mentions over here. IASA versions of the F-15C, E, I, maybe even better versions of the F-16, other versions of the Rafale, like the navalized version. None of these would actually be 100% needed for a 5th generation jet to come. For example, the Rafale, we can have just better missiles to the Rafale that we have already in the game, and it would already be fighting these other vehicles as a top dog, right? So the Mika NG, for example, you know, the better versions of the Mika and stuff, the Mika IR, if you add those, it's already a pretty gap-filling vehicle to the 5th generation jets, right? But at the end of the day, they can still add more versions, and I'm pretty sure they will add those. But these 6 that I mentioned are the most absolutely necessary, the like inner beats that they're just necessary. Trust me, guys. Of course, we might see F-14Ds, we might see other vehicles, we might see MiG-35s, we might see Su-34Ms and other versions of the Su-30 like the SM-2. Yes, of course. But these are the ones that without these, I don't see a 5th generation coming to the game. Honestly, like some form of modernized Eurofighter. It doesn't need to be the Tranche 4 as well, right? But something like that needs to be added before we see 5th generation jets. These are the absolutely necessary vehicles before we see those. So if you don't see them, the majority of them on the very least, don't expect 5th generations. Of course, they already confirmed that 5th generations will come in a long future, like half of next year or more. But without these, don't expect the 5th generations to come in the next patch, for example, right? So yeah, basically that's it, okay? So see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment. Tomorrow we will be covering everything, testing the F-106 in battles and other things. So let me know in the comments what you think, and I see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.